The Royal Bahamas Police Force has granted permission to the United States Coast Guard to send divers into the Sea of Abaco. Not requested. Not pending. Granted. And the reason they are going in is because Brian Hooker's own GPS data, recovered from his electronic devices by federal investigators, directly contradicts what he told them about where he went, where the couple traveled that night, and where Lynette is. That single development changed everything about this case. And if you are new here, take a second right now to subscribe to the Evidence Hollow and leave a like on this video, because this channel has been following every layer of this investigation since the beginning, and what we are about to walk through tonight is the most significant chapter yet. Lynette Hooker was supposed to be living a life most people only dream about. She and her husband Brian had left ordinary life behind and built something remarkable on the open water. They sailed through the turquoise bays of the Abaco Islands in the Bahamas, documented their journey across social media, and presented the world with a portrait of two people who had chosen freedom over everything else. Their sailboat was named Soulmate. And from the outside, it looked exactly like that. Then on the night of April 4th, Lynette vanished. Brian's account of what happened that night sounded, on the surface, like a tragedy. He said the two of them left the Abaco Inn at around 7:30 in the evening and climbed into their 8-foot hard dinghy to make the roughly 1,000-yard journey south to Soulmate, which was anchored in the bay. He described the conditions as rough. 2 to 4 foot waves, winds building toward 20 knots. He said Lynette went overboard somewhere in that short stretch of water. She had the spare engine key inside her dry bag. The engine died. He could not reach her. The current and wind drove them apart, and he drifted for 9 hours before washing ashore at Marsh Harbor at 4 in the morning. That was the story. And then investigators started checking it against the evidence. The weather, according to CNN and multiple witnesses, along with video footage and photographs taken at that exact location on that exact night, showed conditions that were flat and calm. Not 2 to 4 foot seas. Not 20-knot winds. Glass. The ocean that night was described as glass. The drift timeline does not hold together either. Blaine Stevenson, a friend of both Brian and Lynette who conducted his own physical drift demonstration for this case, determined that at the wind speeds Brian described, the distance Brian claims to have covered should have taken approximately 5 hours, not 9. Then there is the direction Brian said Lynette was swimming. He told Fire and Rescue she was swimming toward the boat, which was to the south. He told others she was swimming toward shore. And he told boatyard security guard Edward Smith, in an account reported by Fox News Digital, that she was swimming toward Hopetown with a yellow bag. Hopetown is north. The boat was south. Those are opposite directions. And Lynette's dry bag was green, not yellow. The timing creates its own contradiction. Brian told the world the incident happened around 7:30 or 8 in the evening. He told Edward Smith it happened at 7 o'clock. At 7 in the evening in the Abacos in early April, it is still daylight. That is not the dark, storm-tossed night he described to everyone else. He told Lynette's mother Darlene that he fired 2 flares. Physical evidence recovered from the dinghy showed only one had been discharged. There was still a flare remaining in the gun. And then there is the matter of Brian's clothing when he was found. Volunteer searcher Nathan, who has done extensive ground-level investigation throughout this case, filmed the terrain Brian would have had to cross to reach the subdivision where he claims to have knocked on doors. Mangroves. Standing water. Black sludge. Ravines. In pitch darkness. In sandals. Meanwhile, the boatyard sat blazing with light 150 yards to the north along the rocky shoreline. Jim Todd, from the Hopetown Volunteer Fire and Rescue, was physically present when Brian boarded the rescue vessel that morning. He noted that Brian's blue slide sandals showed no sign of mud, sludge, or muck from any of the terrain Brian described navigating in the dark. Every single detail, when examined carefully, falls apart. But none of it compares to what federal investigators found when they went through Brian Hooker's electronic devices. Per CNN, reported by Elizabeth Wolfe and confirmed by a United States official familiar with the investigation, the U.S. Coast Guard will send divers to new locations in its search for Lynette Hooker after investigators found inconsistencies between her husband's location data and his statements to investigators about where to search for his wife. Read that language carefully. Inconsistencies between her husband's location data and his statements to investigators. That is a United States official, on record, confirming that Brian Hooker's own GPS data does not match what he told federal investigators about where he went, where the couple traveled that evening, and where investigators should be looking. Per ABC News, forensic evidence recovered from Brian Hooker's electronic devices led investigators to new areas of interest that had never previously been searched. And one United States official confirmed that the information Hooker provided to investigators does not match the GPS data recovered from his devices. Per CBS News, GPS data derived from one of Brian's devices showed that device on the water, stopping at a specific location in the Sea of Abaco, and then returning to shore. Not drifting. Not helpless at the mercy of wind and current. Stopping deliberately at a specific point and coming back. That is not the behavior of a man who lost his wife and spent 9 hours adrift. That is the movement of a man who went somewhere with a destination in mind. Per Fox News Digital, a source in the Bahamas confirmed the new search will focus on an area of the Sea of Abaco where waters reach depths of 25 feet. 25 feet is deep enough that the aerial grid searches conducted by Coast Guard planes, which have been flying since the earliest days of this investigation, would not have detected anything resting on the bottom. Only divers, going to specific coordinates, will find what is there. And per Fox News Digital, a United States official confirmed that the Hooker's dinghy allegedly visited the same area as that GPS data shows. The dinghy visited the same area. That is a confirmed detail from a named United States official. Brian's own GPS device and the dinghy were in the same location, a location he never told investigators about, in 25 feet of water, in the Sea of Abaco. Now understand why that data exists and why it could not be erased. Brian Hooker had multiple electronic devices, including multiple phones, multiple tablets, and 2 watches identified through his and Lynette's social media. A large white watch he was wearing when released from Bahamian custody, and a second watch, greenish-black in color, visible in older posts and notably absent afterward. Blaine Stevenson demonstrated on camera using his own Garmin Quantic sailing watch exactly what that kind of device captures. Every position on the water. Every stop. Every depth reading at each coordinate. All of it time-stamped. All of it synced automatically to app servers and stored remotely. Per Fox News Digital, the renewed search is specifically based on GPS data from Brian Hooker's phone in which he was using a marine navigation app. That data uploaded to servers beyond his reach and beyond anyone's ability to retroactively alter or delete. And the devices were not the only things keeping a record aboard Soulmate that night. A Blink security camera system was installed on the vessel, confirmed by investigators and by Carlia Worth, who was aboard in February. Blink cameras upload automatically to Amazon cloud storage, accessible to federal investigators by subpoena regardless of what happened to any physical device on the boat. A camera at the stern of the pilot house facing forward, one at the bow facing back covering the cockpit, and at least one below deck. All of them potentially recording on the night of April the 4th. The battery management system, a newer unit installed after a lightning strike damaged the original, logs every electrical event aboard with a precise timestamp. Every light, every pump, every device charge, every moment a human being draws power from that boat. If anyone was aboard Soulmate after 7:30 on April the 4th, that system recorded it. The Starlink satellite terminal mounted on the mast automatically logged every device that connected to the Soulmate network, time-stamped on SpaceX servers, accessible under a Department of Justice subpoena. And the AIS, the automatic identification system that broadcasts the vessel's position, went offline at 9:29 in the evening on April the 4th and did not come back on until 8:34 the following morning. 11 hours of silence on a boat with hundreds of watts of solar power and no credible explanation offered. Every system on that vessel was keeping its own record. And federal investigators have all of it. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. His Bahamian attorney Terrell Butler has stated he categorically and unequivocally denies any wrongdoing. That stays on the table through every chapter of this investigation. But his own GPS data is now directing Coast Guard divers to locations in 25 feet of water that he never mentioned to anyone. And the Bahamas has already said yes. Go look. If this case has your attention, and it should, make sure you are subscribed to the Evidence Hollow so you do not miss the next chapter when the divers go in and what they find, or do not find, changes this investigation once again. Leave a like on this video so more people can find it. Because Lynette Hooker deserves every set of eyes that can be put on this case. The Royal Bahamas Police Force has granted permission. The Coast Guard divers are going in. And before we get to where this investigation stands right now, there is one more system aboard Soulmate that has not been fully appreciated until this moment. A FLIR thermal imaging camera. Per Daniel Danforth, a friend of the couple who spoke to Fox News Digital, Soulmate was equipped with a FLIR infrared thermal imaging system valued at approximately $33,000. This is not recreational equipment. It detects heat signatures in complete darkness. It can track a human body in dark water automatically. It is precisely the kind of technology that search and rescue teams deploy when they are looking for a person in open water at night. Brian Hooker says his wife went into the water. He says the dark and the current took her away from him. He says he could not find her. He had a $33,000 thermal camera on his boat that could have located her heat signature in dark water, and he never turned it on. Not during the night she disappeared. Not the following morning when he was below decks on Soulmate for an hour with a police officer present. Not at any point documented by the investigation. Per Fox News Digital, investigators are actively working to extract data from devices aboard the vessel, including that infrared camera, which may contain additional evidence surrounding Lynette Hooker's disappearance. Per CBS News, additional evidence continues to be processed at the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. The technology was watching. It was recording. It was keeping a record that night. And Brian did not manage to turn all of it off. Now here is something confirmed by a United States official and reported by Fox News Digital that tells you exactly where this investigation is physically heading. Soulmate has been moved from the Coast Guard station in Fort Pierce 100 miles south to the Coast Guard station in Fort Lauderdale. The stated reason is that Fort Pierce did not have the capability to pull it from the water. Fort Lauderdale does. Pull it from the water. Those 4 words carry the weight of everything that comes next. When a vessel is hauled out entirely and placed on blocks in a covered dry dock facility, investigators gain access to every inch of it. The hull below the waterline. The keel. The through-hull fittings. The underbody. Every surface that has been submerged since the night of April the 4th becomes reachable and examinable for the first time. Once Soulmate is out of the water, it can be sealed and protected. Every surface, every compartment, every piece of remaining evidence on that vessel frozen in its current state and preserved for whatever legal proceedings follow. The boat Lynette funded. The boat she called home. The boat she sewed the bimini for with her own hands. That boat is now federal evidence heading toward dry dock, and the investigators best equipped to examine every inch of it are about to reach parts of it they have never been able to access before. Now there is one question this entire investigation has been circling since the beginning, and it is the question that cannot wait any longer. Where is the yacht Azura, and where are its captain and crew? Azura was anchored in Aunt Pat's Bay on the night of April the 4th, right alongside Soulmate, close enough that anyone aboard could have had a clear view of that anchorage throughout the evening. Per CBS News, the Coast Guard Investigative Service issued a formal appeal to locate the owners and occupants of a sailboat moored near Soulmate the night Lynette disappeared. The memo states that the owners and occupants of that vessel may have information relevant to the Kai's investigation. And here is why that matters so much. At around 8 in the evening, a group of witnesses on land reported seeing a flare, but not from the dinghy's position out in open water. From the direction of Soulmate. And it traveled horizontally across the surface of the water, not upward into the sky the way a genuine distress signal behaves. After 9:30, when the island had grown quiet and ambient noise had faded, a witness reported hearing a massive splash coming from the direction of Soulmate. Loud enough to register. Loud enough to remember. And at around midnight, a resident named Dean, who lives on Lubber's quarters facing Elbow K, had video running. That footage captured light events on what appears to be Soulmate. Lights going on and off, low near the waterline where a dinghy would sit, and higher up on deck, at midnight, when Brian has said nobody was anywhere near that boat. If Azura was anchored there, if its crew was awake at 8, at 9:30, and at midnight, they may have witnessed all of it. The flare moving across the water. The splash. The lights. If you have any information about the vessel Azura or its crew, or if you were in Aunt Pat's Bay on the night of April the 4th, that information can be submitted anonymously through the Kai's Tips application, available on iOS and Android. Now there is something that has been present in this case from the very beginning, and it becomes more significant with every development that follows. Brian Hooker threatened to throw Lynette overboard before any of this happened. Per CNN, Carly Ellsworth told investigators that in 2024, during a period when Lynette and Brian had separated, Lynette revealed that Brian had choked her and threatened to kill her and throw her overboard so that nobody would ever find her. And in January of 2026, just 3 months before Lynette disappeared, Lynette told Carly about that threat again. 3 months before she vanished from a boat in the ocean. Per NBC News, a 2015 police report from Kentwood, Michigan documented a domestic incident between Brian and Lynette. Lynette told officers that Brian had choked and struck her during that altercation. The case was eventually dropped and Brian was not charged, but it was documented by police on paper with a case number. Per Lynette's friend Marn, relayed through Blaine Stevenson, during the 2023 to 2024 separation, Lynette said she could no longer cruise with Brian and be alone on a boat with him. Lynette's mother Darlene has said that the last time she saw her daughter, she told her not to go back. She was afraid of what was going to happen. Lynette had a plane ticket to leave Brian on March the 11th, just 3 weeks before she disappeared. She never used it. And now federal divers are going into the Sea of Abaco, following GPS coordinates recovered from Brian's own device, searching for Lynette in 25 feet of water at locations he never disclosed to a single investigator. Per Fox News Digital, family members of Lynette Hooker have already provided DNA samples to assist in the identification process. Darlene, Carly, and Lynette's father, all three prepared and waiting, so that when those divers find something, identification can happen immediately while the team is still on location. He threatened to throw her overboard. He said nobody would ever find her. And now divers are going to the exact coordinates his own device recorded to find out what is there. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. His Bahamian attorney Terrell Butler has stated he categorically and unequivocally denies any wrongdoing. That remains part of this story every time it is told. Now bring everything together. The GPS device recorded where Brian went on the night of April the 4th. The marine navigation app logged every stop. The Starlink terminal logged every connection. The battery management system logged every electrical event. The cameras were recording. The AIS went offline at 9:29 in the evening and did not come back on until 8:34 the following morning. Every system on that vessel was keeping its own independent record, and Brian Hooker, a former AT&T technician who worked his own boat and understood every system aboard it, could not reach back in time and delete what the GPS had already stored. He could not wipe a server at SpaceX. He could not erase a Starlink connection that had already been logged. He could not reach into the cloud and take back what the cameras had already uploaded. Lynette Hooker has been missing for 54 days. She was 55 years old. She chose this life deliberately. She loved the ocean. She documented every beautiful and difficult day of it and called it her happy place. She ran with her daughter. She sewed the bimini on her own boat. She was the kind of person who made everyone around her feel like they had won something just by knowing her. And the technology that surrounded her life on that boat was watching on the night she disappeared. It kept a record. The Royal Bahamas Police Force has granted permission. The Coast Guard divers are going into the water right now, following the coordinates that technology recorded, to bring Lynette home. If you have been following this case and you want to be here when those divers surface and the next chapter of this investigation breaks, subscribe to the Evidence Hollow right now and hit the notification bell. This channel has covered every development since the beginning and we are not stopping. Leave a like on this video so that more people find it, because Lynette Hooker deserves every set of eyes that can be put on this case. 54 days. We have not stopped. Not for a single day. Technology does not lie. And it is about to tell us everything.